All right, today on Locked On Mississippi State, will MSU have a legit playmaker on offense in 2023? Because they haven't had one in a long time.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who knew that we would be back for another show? Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bo Bounds and Blake Scott. So, Blake, today we've got Mississippi State's going to hit the football field in 2 weeks. They're going to start spring training. They're going to have a lot of familiar faces, but almost a totally new staff in different spots, head coach, coordinators, and so on. Although one of them was the coordinator, as you well know, Zach Arnett, on the defensive side of the football for 3 years. I think the big question that people are asking is, can Justin Robinson or Tulu Griffin actually be legit big-time playmakers for Mississippi State or another player? I don't know what direction you would go after Justin Robinson and Tulu Griffin, both wide receivers, both totally different stylistically. You know, I mean, Justin Robinson's almost 6'5", almost 220 pounds, catch radius, you know, as wide as the end zone. Tulu Griffin is built really well, probably 5'10", maybe. And can do all sorts of different things, but he's more of a Swiss Army knife between what he can do on special teams and on offense. Some would say he's already been a difference maker on special teams and that he wasn't allowed the opportunity to be a difference maker on offense. But one, do these guys actually have NFL potential? And two, can they be, and what I'm talking about is SEC playmaker, difference maker. Not against Bowling Green, SEC. So, Locked On Mississippi State, Bo Bounds, Blake Scott. Blake, what do you think? Yes or no?
No, I think
I do.
It's the $100 million question, right? It's the difference in Zach Arnett having some cushion after his first season or being in the hot seat after year one. It's the question that Mike Leach had to answer when he walked on campus after Joe Moorhead and had nothing in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Mississippi State's been waiting for a receiver to do what we've seen their counterpart in the state seem to do almost year in and year out, and that's put together a pretty high-level SEC caliber receiving season.
They did it 2 years ago, but he didn't stay around.
Yep. No, you're right. You didn't have your NIL ready. You weren't able to keep Mekhi Polk on the roster.
Yeah, he was everything you wanted.
Yep. But it's neither here nor there now. And so now the question is, what can Justin Robinson be? Because I think you know what you have in Tulu Griffin. I think that Tulu Griffin is, they list him at 5'10", $180. He's built. He is a guy who is explosive with the ball in his hand. We've seen what he can do in the special teams side of the ball. Getting him the ball on offense is going to be the key. However, your true receiving number one threat has to be Justin Robinson. It has to be. He's built like you want an NFL receiver to be built. He's got the size, the speed, the strength. He came on late. He only caught 30 passes last year, but he came on late. And, of course, we all remember the only touchdown catch in the bowl game that Justin Robinson pulled down with what felt
like a hell of a catch.
1/100th of an inch in between him and the out-of-bounds line.
For the better part of 100 years.
You don't
and
make
definitely the last since Eric Moult.
Yep.
And that was in a different time. Mississippi State does not complete that pass to win that game. And so that's what Justin Robinson brings to the table. Now, I don't think we're disagreeing. I think Tulu's going to get more touches. So Tulu has an opportunity to just catch a ton of footballs and do some crazy, crazy cool things if they feature him. In the Leach offense, they just weren't going to do it, whether that's hard-headed Steve Spurrier Jr., or they just didn't feel like he was ready. One thing, I watched some of Mike Leach's postgame late in the year, and he said that no receiver had been able to distance themselves from others. So here's what we're going to find out with Kevin Barbay, offensive coordinator at MSU, Blake. Can Tulu Griffin or Justin Robinson or Jaden Wally or someone else separate themselves?
Yeah. I mean,
I think these two guys, I think they have NFL potential, and I think these two guys could do it.
Yeah. There's zero doubt in my mind that Justin Robinson has the ability to do it. Tulu is such an interesting animal in the modern era of the NFL and in college football, where you are more likely to create specialized roles. Tulu Griffin does have an opportunity. He should be an all SEC caliber player no matter what his NFL career looks like.
No doubt.
Because of what you should be able to utilize him with in the offense. And what I think Kevin Barbay, and he came on, we've interviewed Kevin already.
On the Out of Bounds show.
That's right.
ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
He talked about they're going to do things that make the offense run smoother, and part of that is motion. Part of that is mismatching and doing what we see the best teams in college and the NFL do, which is try to put their players in the best position to win. Mike Leach had a great offense, but he was going to run Mike Leach's offense.
He did it a little bit with Crabtree, a little bit with Mekhi Polk, and a little bit with the other dude out at Washington State, but not every. He didn't do it every year. I mean, it was interesting that Mekhi Polk had 105 receptions.
I don't think that's Leach's system. Leach didn't change the system. Those guys were just better than anyone else in the roster.
And I think Will likes to throw to the right side, and at that point, Malik Heath was on the left.
Yep.
And
in the middle of the field,
he
Mekhi
was comfortable, but I don't know. Anyway, all right, real quick. Another football topic is Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State. A lot of people have him late first, early second. Heck of a competitor, had an unbelievable career, actually underrated. And if he'd played at even a bigger program in the SEC, who knows? I do think he's first-round talent. Either way, he's going to go in the second round. Barring injury, this guy could have a heck of a career in the NFL. He's long. He's as far as when the ball's in the air, he's one of the best in college football.
Hey, you know who he reminds me of a little bit in that instance, because he did leave NCAA with the career pick six record, and he left Mississippi State with some career interceptions records. He reminds me a lot of Trayvon Diggs of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
When the ball's in the air, Emmanuel Forbes has a way to find his hands on the football. Doesn't always come down with it. He comes down with a lot more than most people do, but he always has a way to get his hands on the ball. He's also athletically exactly what the NFL is looking for.
Yeah, he is.
Lanky, long, fast. He's got closing speed. He can get burnt but get back. This is not a league of shut down corners in the sense of don't allow anything.
No,
it's a league of playmaking corners,
right?
Where you're going to get burned a couple times, but if you can make it up with picks, with turnovers like that over the course of the season, you're going to be a huge factor. I'm excited to see in the underwear Olympics, as we like to call it, how Emmanuel Forbes shows out, because I think he physically will be exactly what the NFL wants to find.
And he battles at the catch point, and that's what they're looking for. That's all you hear. All right, locked on Mississippi State, Bo Bounds, Blake Scott. And if you're looking for a delicious treat, Blake, but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then, man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously. They're so delicious, you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built bars so good? Well, for starters, they are all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that when they are healthy, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. And if you're close to Sam's, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later, or head out to your nearest Walmart today and get a 4-bar box. All right, so Mississippi State, Southern Miss tonight in baseball, and Mississippi State, South Carolina in basketball. Let's start with hoops.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. They're a 16-point favorite. That should scare you to death.
Yikes.
They have to win to get into March Madness. And Chirs Jans has this team magically winning games that they shouldn't win.
Fourth quadrant run win over A&M.
Yeah, and they've already won on the road against South Carolina. Not that that means it, but they have. They played. They won on the road. They've won some cool road games at Arkansas, at Ole Miss, and so on. They dropped the one to Missouri, but tonight is all about just scoring one more point than South Carolina, even with the 16-point spread, Blake. And the question is, can they go out and get a big lead and win big? Or is this going to be a game that goes all the way down to the wire?
What's been the MO all season? It's grind it out.
Yeah.
They're not a, when you don't score, like Mississippi State doesn't score, you don't run away with many.
Yeah.
Now, could they come out effort, intensity, and keep South Carolina from scoring to the point that even their 65 looks like a 20-point win? Maybe. I mean, I don't expect Mississippi State to score 80, right? So a big win, covering 16 when you average 66 points, you can do the math. I mean, you're saying that you think South Carolina scores under 50, basically, is the idea.
Over under is 125.
Yeah,
so there you go. I mean, if a 16-point spread,
that's 68.
Over under, 125.
Yeah.
Yikes.
75 and 50. That's 15 points right there. So you're saying 74, 50, 49, something like that. Like,
and the question is, who gets going early? If they're going to shut down South Carolina, if they do, which they have, if they're going to shut them down on the defensive end, who gets going on the offensive end early? Is it Tolu? Is it Cam Matthews? Is it Shaq Moore? Is it Davis? Or is it DJ?
Yes. I mean, I know that seems somewhat unfair, but don't you come to the point where you have to expect Tolu, like if Tolu Smith isn't getting 15 and 10,
true,
you're kind of like, that's kind of your baseline of what he has to do.
And he opens it all up. Shaq Moore decided to score some more,
which was nice,
over the weekend against Texas A&M, and even DJ pumped in 9. You know my number with DJ, 8.
Yep.
He needs to be 8+.
Yep.
So we'll see. Cam Matthews is the do-it-all stud who I think is actually all SEC worthy with everything that he does. I don't know, man. It's almost like, Blake, you mentioned it was senior night.
It is, yeah.
If they keep playing, there's no telling what he could be in another couple of weeks.
It's pretty amazing what Chirs Jans has been able to get out of Cam Matthews, because this was such a raw talent.
And people say Brandon Vincent. I'm like, yeah, but to me, Cam Matthews is so much better, but then Brandon Vincent had more star power on that team, Blake, and he didn't have to do as much.
Cam
needs to be,
as much
as top 3 production.
As much as we talk about DJ and Tolu, you are correct. Cam Matthews has been the backbone of this program through this season. Quietly at first, and I think every game it gets louder and louder what his performance is and what it means to this program.
And I don't know where the free throws down the stretch are coming, but Mississippi State fans are thinking it's glorious. He was 7 of 9 against A&M. He's had some unbelievable performances from the free throw stripe. They've actually had some other guys do really well too after they couldn't hit one. I don't know what Jans and the staff did in practice, but whatever they did, if I was an NBA team or a top 10 college basketball team, I would be flying into Starkville.
Yeah, if you look at I guess it's not exactly the midway point of the season, but if you look at like the start of the season all the way to the first 5 or so SEC games, and then you look at that point forward, you would think that there were 2 different programs shooting free throws. They don't even look like they could be close to the same team.
I couldn't agree more. And here's something else. Their ball movement on the offensive end, they may not be really good, but for so long, the ball died out on the perimeter under Howland, and we won't even count Rick Ray. But their ability to, seriously, especially, I don't care if it's half court or tempo, their ability to move the ball around, especially the perimeter. And here's one other thing they've got going for him. Tolu Smith, for a big man,
Great passer.
is an excellent passer.
Great passer.
And guess who else is? Cam Matthews.
Yeah. And
that is
sneaky good ball
rare.
dribbling. Sneaky good ball handling from Cam Matthews, too.
Okay, the way he handled it the last 2 minutes of the game
I'm
against
just saying,
Texas A&M.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to compare the two, obviously totally different, but like it had a little Jamont Gordon to it where you go, why is this big dude dribbling the basketball? Sure. You're like, what's going on here?
But he looked composed. What I loved about what he did against the hottest team in college basketball, Texas A&M, Saturday, and for our listeners, we're talking about Cam Matthews, is Blake, when he got it on some of those 2 or 3 possessions, didn't even faze him.
No. He looked like he had been there before and he expected to succeed.
And that's
correct.
None of them have.
Correct. There's no doubt about it. Mississippi State's defense, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. They're a top 5 defensive scoring efficiency. They're forcing 15 turnovers a game. I mean, 14.93. That's insane.
How many steals? They had 12 on Saturday?
Yeah. And
you said it earlier.
12 steals, and they average 9.1 steals per game, which is second only to the Final Four team that Richard Williams had.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Richard Williams was known as a defensive specialist and coach for sure. Okay. I'm glad that you noted that. Yeah. Kudos to Chirs Jans and all those guys.
Real quick, staying on the basketball train, this is a little future. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because Chirs Jans is trying to make the NCAA tournament, and that is all very real in front of him.
Yeah.
A win tonight, Joe Lenardi had him on the last 4 buys, which means they're not even the last 4 in. They're the next 4. So that means you've got a little cushion. If you win tonight, I think you're pretty much in. How about Josh Hubbard, Mississippi high-profile basketball
number
recruit,
1 player in the state,
out of MRA, Madison Ridgeland Academy, was committed to Kermit Davis and Florida. Kermit Davis and Ole Miss because when Chirs Jans got hired, couldn't get everything rolling quick enough, obviously time-wise, and Hubbard commits to Ole Miss. Well, now Kermit Davis fired at Ole Miss, mutually let go of at Ole Miss, and Josh Hubbard now up on the free market.
So Hubbard signed the letter of intent in November, and Ole Miss has allowed him to get out of the letter of intent, which they have to, and now he has opened up his recruitment. Mississippi State will have to fight several other teams,
blue blood teams,
some possibly, because again, you get it's like what happens in the second signing day, Blake, in football.
Yep.
Some guys are over recruited. Now Josh Hubbard is a legit dude.
Yeah. But supply and demand. There's less supply and there's still more demand. So I think the Josh Hubbard news is interesting. We'll obviously monitor that throughout the time as the season continues. But Josh Hubbard being
heck of a player for MRA, started in the 8th grade. He broke their scoring record, obviously. And
he holds the record for most points scored in Mississippi high school basketball. So it's like 4,000 something. It's an insane number. He
can shoot from the parking lot.
He reminds me of me when I was younger. Maybe a little more bounce. Not a lot, but a little bit. But no. I'll tell you this much. For Chirs Jans, I don't want to get ahead of myself again, but it's an opportunity to have your cake and eat it too. To have an incredible first season, to capitalize on momentum, and to make the NCAA tournament would all be incredible. To kind of tie that up with a bow by then stealing Josh Hubbard from your in-state rival, you can't write a better first year.
No, you can't. All right, so tonight, Mississippi State, South Carolina at the Hump, 8:00, 16-point spread, and I think Mississippi State wins by 12.
I'm going to say win, but don't cover. Agree. Yeah. 16's too much for a team that doesn't score the ball.
May have just gone too much. Maybe more in the 9-10 range. We'll see. God, are they going to continue to hit free throws the way they have? All right, Locked On Mississippi State, Bo Bounds, Blake Scott. Thanks again for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place, plus hear from big-name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Tonight, Mississippi State Southern Miss in the Jackson Metro at the Mississippi Braves Stadium in Pearl, and this is a big one. It's huge. Southern Miss coming off a super regional team where they lost to Ole Miss. Mississippi State coming off a terrible year, 26-30. This is Locked On Mississippi State with Bo Bounds and Blake Scott. Blake, tonight, you've got Bradley Lofton starting for Mississippi State, the freshman phenom out of DeSoto County, who they didn't even think would get to campus. He's already looked good. And then Southern's going to be throwing Tyler Martin, who looks like a craft. This is not good for most college baseball teams, especially Mississippi State. Tyler Martin for Southern Miss is a senior. He's a transfer from Nebraska, and he's a crafty left-hander.
Uh-oh.
You don't want to look up 5 innings in, and you've got 1 hit on the board.
Yeah.
And you're down 4-0.
You talking about that ULM game last week?
Yeah.
About this same day?
Yeah.
It's setting up, man. Does Scott Berry know baseball or does Scott Berry know baseball? I mean, he knew what he's doing. He said, Mississippi State struggled against the lefty, against ULM. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring out Tyler Martin and an experienced left-hander.
Yeah.
Right? He's a senior. He's a transfer. He's been through the wars. He's played big-level Power 5 baseball. That will be interesting. How does the Mississippi State offense, which Saturday had a pretty good day, Sunday had a great day.
True.
Are we going to go back to your Friday appearance where you couldn't score, you couldn't get hits? Are you going to be kind of in the middle, or are you going to explode again? What's it going to be like for this Mississippi State offense against, again, it feels like it's been 6 years they've struggled with the crafty lefty.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like it's been forever.
Okay. And also, that's a big ballpark.
And this is a team that hits the ball up in the air in Mississippi State.
So you hope to get some of those in the gap, both teams. But Mississippi State would love to see Ledbetter, Hunter Hines, Bryce Chance, Dakota Jordan, among others, get that ball out in the gap and have some fun. So
I think it's important that if you're Mississippi State, 2 things have to be the case. One, you really want to see Bradley Lofton look like he did in his first start.
Get off to a good start. There'll be 8,000 people there tonight, and I don't know if that could affect Tyler Martin too. He didn't play in front of that many people at Nebraska.
And what are the odds? Statistically, what are the odds that a freshman can come out in his first and second start and be dominant? I don't know. I mean, Bradley Lofton's
a kid with that.
Well, he's got every opportunity in the world.
So they thought he was a first rounder. I don't believe the moment will be too big for him.
I agree.
With who he played against in travel ball, I don't think the moment will be too big.
I'm 100% with you. I don't think it's going to be about moment. It's just going to be about, do you have your stuff every night? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What level of stuff does he have?
How will this home plate umpire handle the 20-second clock, the pitch clock,
and the zone,
and as you said, the strike zone? The
strike zone. Yeah.
That with TrackMan, we've got a tighter strike zone. Like, who does that favor? Lofton, Tyler Martin, someone else? Who knows?
Can I ask you this question? So this is a debate that goes back in baseball a long time. Patience versus aggression at the plate, right? There's 2 kind of trains of thought. I guess there's 3. There's both ends of the spectrum, and then there's in the middle. One end of the spectrum says you're aggressive. You swing first pitch almost every time.
Yeah.
Because that's the best pitch you're going to get. The other side of that, and we've seen players do this at the MLB level, is I'm not swinging at the first pitch almost no matter what.
Right.
And I'm going to let it go every time. And then there's somewhere in the middle. To me, the new zone in college baseball, which is much more a minor league zone.
Yeah.
It's a minor league styled zone. It is much tighter than we've ever seen.
That's a good point. It's a AA zone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to define it. To me, what did you see against Mississippi State with VMI? And what did you see with ULM? And what did you see with Arizona State? Patience. When they were patient and the state pitchers could not consecutively hit the zone, all of a sudden those pitch counts got real high.
Mm-hmm.
I think at one point, Mississippi State had thrown like 135 pitches through 6 innings on Friday against Arizona State or something like that.
Well, yeah, and that is the extreme.
Correct.
So, Cade Smith has looked really good throughout his career. And I was surprised to see that. But then after him, nobody else, as you referencing, nobody else could throw strikes.
So it's a tight zone. And so to me, for Mississippi State, your offense is set up to take advantage of this new era of balls and strikes, in my opinion.
I agree.
More than any
Amani Larry
in the last 10 years.
Ledbetter, Jordan, Hines, all these guys.
Clark, Hancock.
Yeah.
I mean, Highfill, who's not even a full starter right now.
That's a great point. I wonder who. That's a good point. I wonder who will start at catcher tonight.
Can I tell you who
Luke Hancock or Ross Highfill?
Do you know who I think needs to be in the lineup given what the type of ballpark you're playing in? Ross Highfill. I don't know whether that means DH or catcher, but he hits the ball on a rope. He hits line drives.
True.
So far, Ledbetter and Highfill have been your best line drive gap guys.
Yeah.
This is a park. We've seen Mississippi State and Ole Miss play here infinite amount of times. It's a gap park.
Don't you think that this is Locked On Mississippi State with Bo Bounds and Blake Scott, Mississippi State Southern Miss tonight. Don't you think that Colton Ledbetter, starting outfielder for Mississippi State, don't you think his name sounds like he is a big-time country music star?
Yeah, I could see that. I could, isn't there a former Ole Miss baseball player turned country music singer?
I think there is.
I think that's the guy who did the Ed Orgeron song, right? Wasn't he a former baseball player?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's
Colton Ledbetter reminds me of somebody who's got several top country music hits, a beautiful wife,
plays out of Nashville.
Yeah,
absolutely. I could see that.
And he may play Major League Baseball.
I could see Colton Ledbetter being a country music star. No, he's gonna have to be a star tonight. You're gonna have to have that type of hitting.
You know what's something else that I think is interesting that you and I have talked about the last 5 years on the Out of Bounds show on the ESPN 105.9 The Zone. How about the way this team is built, Blake, as far as physically?
Yeah. That was my point. They're built differently than they've ever been.
We knew that that's what Lamonis wanted, that's what they did at Louisville, and that's what he was trying to do, corn-fed dudes at Indiana. But, Blake, some of these guys.
Yeah.
Even Ledbetter, even Amani Larry at second, but Hunter Hines, Dakota Jordan, Ledbetter, Ross Highfill may not be tall, but he is thick.
Mm-hmm.
And Slade Alford, there's some big dudes.
Yeah, I look at those three names.
There's some pork chops going on in the clubhouse.
Those three names that you just mentioned, one we saw last year, SEC All-American, Hunter Hines, freshman All-American, but then Dakota Jordan, Ross Highfill. To me, those three guys embody kind of the new it's crazy that we're saying new because we're like 5 years in now of Lamonis, but the new era of Chris Lamonis, Mississippi State baseball is going to be built with that type of light tower power, or as we'll say in Starkville, loft power, right? It's left field loft power is what they're looking for, and they've already found some of it in these young guys. The question is, can you keep that going and find pitching?
No doubt. But it's fun to talk about hitting and
hitting
bombs.
Chicks dig the long ball.
They do, and gap power. I was also Kellum Clark. Man, he's put on some really good weight. And that guy was sick as a dog a couple of years ago. It's good to see him, I think really come around physically.
Yeah.
In his last year at Mississippi State. You hope he has a good year.
So, Dogs, Eagles tonight. It's the earliest we've ever seen them in Pearl that you and I could ever remember. Give me your thoughts. ULM, Southern Miss throwing the lefty a la ULM. Mississippi State, Bradley Lofton. One, do you think we see Durangelo after Lofton?
I do.
I do too. Secondly, how do you think this thing plays out for the Dogs? This is sad. This is how sad this is. As big a deal, as little a deal as this should be, if they lose, it will be another meltdown.
Heck yeah,
and it shouldn't be, because you could lose this game and still make it to Omaha. It's not
true,
but it will be a meltdown for State if they lose.
It's where we are in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, Southern Miss coming off 2 losses to Illinois over the weekend. Yeah. Which way do you think it goes? Southern or State? Who takes it?
I'll go Mississippi State.
Yeah, tight one. You think they blow it out? Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
I like it.
All right, so we're going to the game tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks. We want to thank everybody for listening to Locked On Mississippi State with Bo Bounds and Blake Scott. And thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts.